Hello and good afternoon. Welcome once again to the PCA Live 3 at 3. Today we have a great lineup. Joining me today is going to be none other than the man, the myth, and the legend, Mr. Alan Rubin from Alec Bradley, and our good friend, as Steve Zangel coined him yesterday, the Wolf of K Street, our Federal Affairs Director, Joshua Habersky. Got some great questions lined up for Alan. And hopefully he didn't waste all of his good juice last night on his roundtable that he had on Bourbon and BS. So we're going to go ahead and bring him up to the broadcast right now. Welcome, Alan Rubin, and welcome, Joshua Habersky. How are you guys doing this afternoon?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing well. Josh, how are you?
Doing fantastic. A little snowy here in Erie. I bet it's a little bit better in Miami where you're at, Alan.
Yeah, it was 99 degrees yesterday. It was 75 today, and it rained a little in the afternoon. So getting back to some normal summer Florida weather.
I wanted to do the broadcast outside, but I would literally be shivering out there. There is snow out on the ground here, and I'm definitely ready for some warm weather.
Now, could you go outside? I'd love to see the contrast between the beautiful Florida weather and the snowy Erie weather. That'd be a great shot right there.
Yeah. Hey, if we do this
my good
again,
friend John Lipson says hello.
If we do this again, I'll do it from the house. You'll see what's going on with the weather back there.
Yeah, nice. Pool, sunshine, and Josh freezing cold out there. And Josh, I would expect you to be not in any kind of overcoat. We need to be able to see you as you're actually out there. So you just got to grit your teeth and bear it.
Exactly.
All right, so we got a good lineup. We're going to get into some interesting topics today. It's going to kind of run the gamut. Generally, we kind of cover three pretty broad areas here as we talk about, and we look at kind of you, your company. A lot of people know you already, so we're going to get into a little bit about the state of the industry, and I think the perspective is going to be a little bit more about your insights, your involvement, particularly in the advocacy component and kind of where we're at with some things. Also, your perspective as an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, and some advice for others. And then also maybe a few fun questions at the end. Hopefully we might be able to get some things out of you that people may not know. We're not looking for anything scandalous, but maybe it's just something fun. So on that note, I'm going to turn over to Josh. Now, Josh has got some good questions for you, and we'll turn it over and let you guys kind of start the conversation. And as always, people, for the comments, if you have any questions or comments, please let us know. We can always ask them throughout the course of the show. So Josh, please take it away.
Well, Josh, real quick before you start, just, Scott, if you ask me questions I don't want to answer and somehow the connection gets bad and staticky, you'll know in advance that it's not going to happen.
Well, just before we start, have you seen the clip from one of the directors from the World Health Organization when that woman's asking about Taiwan and he just ignores her? Then he says, "I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question." And she goes to ask it again. And he goes, "No, let's move on." So you can pull that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I didn't hear it. And I'll
truth
take that as a cue.
I don't want to do one thing that the World Health Organization.
Very, very good. There's your cover for it. So that's great. So, all right, sounds good. And I would just like to point out, I'm very much enjoying your son's Gatekeeper right now. This is a delicious stick. I really enjoy it.
Thank you.
And I'm going with the Churchill Puck today. I tend to go with longer cigars because I smoke very quickly. So always go longer, dark cigars. And I had to have a espresso machine shipped to Erie. So that's the counter today.
Josh is high maintenance. Maintenance.
It's okay. The guy works hard. It's where he deserves it.
He absolutely deserves it.
But Alan, just to start, everything is top of mind with the coronavirus. How are you holding up during the crisis? And what steps are you taking to protect your employees and really continue to operate your business, but with the considerations that we have to live in this new norm?
Yeah, I mean, overall as a company, we're holding up pretty well. About 3 weeks ago now, maybe 3.5 weeks ago, I had come in on a Monday and saw everything that was going on and put a 5-point plan together on how we were going to get through this. How many months we were going to plan for, whether we could plan for 4 or 5 months, and how do we go about doing that. We looked at our current financial situation, which was, fortunately very strong. And so we utilized that as the basis. We also did the PPP, which we were able to do. We worked very diligently with our bank very early in that. And then we have a long relationship with our banks. So we went to them and said, hey, if we need to do some things, pull from the credit line, my goal is to make sure that every one of our employees feels safe and that none of their jobs are in jeopardy. So after it took us a few days to get a couple of things in line, we did that. We had a Zoom meeting with our entire staff and just said, there's no job in jeopardy. Everyone is going to remain fully employed. We'll see how things look a month from now and another month from now, and just do everything that we can. The only thing I ask is don't make this a paid vacation. You know, make sure that you're on every day with our retail partners, our tobacconists. Make sure you're reaching out to them, find out how they are, what their needs are, what can we do to help, and just be there for them. I mean, you know, this is the worst time, I think, in retail, right, in the history of the United States, other than maybe back in the Great Depression. But you know, there's a lot of people hurting, and there are things that we can do to help. And so that's what I told everybody. So I think sometimes not knowing is worse than, you know, if you're let go, whatever it may be, at least you know exactly where you stand. Not knowing can be very difficult. So I wanted everyone to understand that we're in this together. I have a phenomenal group of people that I work with. I wanted them to feel safe. I wanted them to know they're going to feed their families. Nothing changes there. And they've all really bought into it and bought into the company. They are making the calls. They are being there for our accounts, our partners. And so far the plan is working, and so we're holding up pretty well. What we're doing to protect everybody is that every one of our territory managers needs to stay home and do their job, right? Not be visiting accounts. Though we do have some people that seem to maybe march to their own beat. They're like, oh yeah, gotta call from a new account. They want to get some stuff started now. I'm traveling to go see them. I'm like, the CDC says don't do it. Your state mandate says don't do it. We're telling you not to do it, but they're adults. I mean, I can't completely stop them. But what we're doing in the office is only one person per department. So one person in marketing, one person in accounting, one person in operations, potentially one person in support. And then our warehouse guys are coming in and shipping 2 days a week. So keeping everybody spread apart. There's gloves here, there's hand gel here, if and what everyone should need. We care a lot about our people, and they've been spectacular in wanting to keep our company safe and healthy. And so it's right now it's a win-win.
Yeah, I think making the accommodations and the considerations for the coronavirus and really utilizing the time to prepare for when this all breaks is kind of what the perspective that we've taken at PCA, and honing the craft, because when this breaks, we want to have it open the floodgates. We want to have the opportunity to, increase sales, go back to the traditional events, but also, learn from this time and utilize it effectively as possible. But like you said, maximize it. It isn't a paid vacation where we're sitting around and stuff like that. Next week we have Jorge from Tobacconist University. That's something that I did. I had a little bit of a lull in the beginning before we started to get into the PPP and all of the work we were doing to help our retail members and manufacturers and the advocacy side of things. So did that real quick, but now, we're doing daily updates. It's really, not only are we advocating for the stuff that we were working on 2 months ago, as you're well aware of, but now we've added a whole new arsenal of issue areas that we have to, accommodate and help out as best as possible. But want to shift over, I read the articles, the Cigar Aficionado article about how you're feeding the factory employees and workers and delivering supplies to them. I just want to say, this is leadership by example, and something that, the private sector, your private business is doing outside of government aid. And it's really admirable. Craig Cass made a comment there that, you're one of the foremost leaders in the industry in taking initiatives like that and helping out. So first of all, I want to thank you for that, but ask you a little bit, can you tell us a little bit more about that decision, how you arrived at it, and other recommendations that you have for manufacturers to do their part in this crisis?
Yeah, first and foremost, let me say that taking care of the people that make our cigars and grow our tobacco and do those things is not unique to me. I can guarantee you that there are other manufacturers and companies that have stepped up for all their employees. So I don't think I know for a fact it's not unique to me. That as an industry, we're tight. I mean, we're a tight group, from the manufacturing side to the distribution side, to our tobacconist partners, to the consumer. It's just, we all are in this together, and we all know that. And so if I tell you that I want my sales team to take care of our retail partners, how could I then on the other side not want to take care of the people who work for us every day? And so how it came about was, after we set our plan for our company in total, I had reached out to the factory and just said, hey, the country of Honduras literally was on lockdown, the entire country. And the way they worked it was that depending on your ID, if you're a Honduran citizen, your ID, depending on the last numbers, was when you were allowed out of the house to go get groceries and those things. The problem is that there was not a lot of food. So even if you just continued to pay them, it doesn't mean they were going to be able to get the staples that they needed. And so I was actually on the phone with the president of another cigar company, a large cigar company. And I said, how are you taking care of your people? Like, what are you going to do? And he said, you can buy food. And I mean, it was literally that one moment. And I hung up the phone. We called down there, we made arrangements, and within 3 days, we had the wire moneyed into the account. We had all the procurement done, and we added up everybody within the factory, everybody that we employ in all the farms, the box factory, and there's a school that we take care of for underprivileged kids down there that we take care of year round. And we figured out how many of the teachers and how many of the kids are there and their families. And we literally just added up numbers and said, okay, this is what you're going to buy for. And so what we did was we figured that basically a family of 4, and that we wanted to make sure that they had staples for 30 days, for a month. And it worked out to about 700 families. So it was done. It was just, honestly, and this came up last night in part of my conversation online. And I said, I really didn't have a choice. And they're like, no, you did have a choice. And I said, well, not really. I always talk about the Alec Bradley family, right? And that we want to make this a family business, and that's what we strive to do, because I want to create an atmosphere that I'd like to work in. And I love this group of people that we work with. And then to see that people potentially just couldn't feed their kids, that was pretty much it, right? Like, if you think about developing countries, they don't have savings accounts, they don't have checking accounts generally, and they get their money and they buy their staples that, for their family to eat. And so it worked out. Sometimes things just work out. We were able to get to like a wholesale supplier of food to like the grocery stores and the restaurants. And we put together packets for every family of 25 pounds of beans and dozens of eggs and rice and corn and oil, sugar, soap. We wanted to make sure that there were some hygiene products in there. And again, that all came from the conversation I had with the president of another company. And the only reason I'm not mentioning the name is because I didn't get their approval to talk about it. But, and then we set it up. The days people were allowed out, they came to the factory, they picked up all of their staples. Where they couldn't, we delivered it, brought it out to the farms, box factory, the school. So it's just been, it's just the right thing to do. At the end of the day, it was just the right thing to do for me. No judgment on anyone else and what they do, but for our company, for our family, it was the right thing to do.
Well, it's certainly an admirable initiative that you've taken, and one that, I think deserves any of the attention that you got from it, because it is going to lead, and I think that that it will lead to others taking action, and it is a family-oriented industry. So I think that, when people see what you've done in this instance, you'll see other manufacturers follow suit, and like you said, others have done that. But it really conceptualized what we talk about in government relations, that this is small family-owned companies, and a narrative that, we're continually beating the bush, telling people this is what we're doing. And this is the nature of the brick and mortar retailers, your small manufacturers coming together, and the incredible amount of work that is done in communities, local communities, whether it's providing jobs, providing, services, donations in other countries. This is a testament to that, and something that, hopefully our folks that keep us up at night and give us problems in Congress and the FDA will take notice to things like this. But, shifting over, looking at the remainder of 2020, how do you think manufacturers and retailers can work together and partner to salvage sales for the rest of this year?
Yeah. So let me start by saying that there's a place for internet catalogs, right, to exist in this atmosphere. But right now, the amount of business they're getting is disproportionate to the market, right? Because there are people that are closed, there are brick and mortar tobacconists that are closed, and we get that. But the one thing that the internet catalog can never provide is the experience of walking into a professional tobacconist and walking through the humidor, excited to find the next cigar that you want to buy. Hopefully Alec Bradley, but the next cigar you want to buy. And being able to sit down amongst friends and have a conversation. And so I think it's really important that you go back to your tobacconist when they're open, or first of all, call, reach out to them on Facebook or some social media, give them a call, find out where they are. Don't assume that they're closed. Don't assume that they're not shipping or that they're not doing curbside, because they may be. And so you need to make sure that you're supporting them, because they're the ones, the retailers in your local area are local participants that then take that money, spend it back on local communities. And I think as a group, like I said, the cigar community is tight, and it's really important to make sure that the person down the block from you, the tobacconist that you go, that your tobacconist of choice, knows you're there for them. And I think also that the tobacconist needs to make sure he's providing an exceptional experience, right? Because what we've learned now is you can get cigars anywhere, but you can't get the experience of walking into a cigar shop and seeing everything and excited about buying the cigar and sitting down for a couple of hours. And that's what they provide. And the professional tobacconist will create exceptional experiences for the consumers. And so let's not forget that. And I think from the manufacturer side, I can only speak for our company. Right now, we are in contact with, as many accounts as we can be to find out what their specific needs are. And we've done some things already to try and to lower the threshold to create free shipping for as many people as we can, doing everything that we can within reason to make sure that every one of our accounts knows what we're there for. So, I don't know what other advice to give other than to make sure that your tobacconist knows that you love them, that you're showing them some love.
Well, that's helpful advice. I think, one of the things throughout this crisis that's been most challenging for everyone, whether you look at manufacturers, retailers, or consumers, is that sense of community. You can't sit around with 10, 15 friends. And I miss in our office, Scott and the staff, you've been there, having casual conversations, talking about important issues, things like that. Now I'm, stuck in my garage smoking a cigar daily by myself. So, but, one of the other questions I want to ask you is, looking back to the history of Alec Bradley and the company, can you give us a sense of where you started and some high points, some pivotal moments that you think where you've turned the leaf and are now one of the most widely recognized companies?
Thank you for that. And yeah, I was in another business, completely different business. I actually sold bolts, nuts, and screws. I sold fasteners for hurricane protection and general manufacturing. And someone came in to buy our company, and basically the question was, what was I going to do next? And my original plan was to take 6 months off and figure out what my next, career move was going to be. And when we announced to our company that we were going to be, selling the company, one of my guys in my warehouse actually said to me, "You should go in the cigar business. You smoke a cigar every morning." I used to come in with a cup of coffee and a cigar at 7 a.m. and go into my office. Back then, you could smoke in your offices. And so he said, "You should go in the cigar business." And I wasn't, I didn't really think about it, but I made a list of everything I wanted my next business to be. And the cigar business did not hit one of them. But I called my tobacconist, and I had asked if there was a trade show and if I could just attend as a guest with him, help him look for stuff for buying and those type of things. And you walk in, and within 10 minutes, you just fall in love with what this industry is. And I already love cigars. I was already passionate about cigars. I love the history. If you're a student of the industry, you start to learn the history of cigars. And I loved all that. And then as soon as you meet the people, I've been to trade shows where people want to rip their throats out. And yet you go to a trade show for the cigar business and people are laughing and hugging and talking and sharing drinks together and dinner together from different companies. It was nothing I'd ever seen before. So it was just very attractive to me. So that's how I started. Just basically fell in love with it, found someone to make a cigar for me, struggled mightily at the beginning, and still there's daily struggles every day. And then we've had these bumps, in our business. Occidental Reserve has been a staple for our company since 1999. That was the beginning. We incorporated in 96, sold our first cigar onto golf courses in 1997, and then really got into the premium side of the business at the very end of 1999. And we've had these lines along the way that have moved us forward. Trilogy was the line that moved us forward, a triangular press cigar, and it got us a lot of attention. Our Max line, we were one of the first companies to ever do all large ring gauges, which are now standard, but we were doing 60s, back in the early 2000s. And so, we've had these moments along the way that have pushed us forward. Tempest, a line that was our first highly rated cigar, with a 94 rating and made top 25. So we've had these bumps along the way that have pushed our companies forward. And every time we had a momentum swing, a momentum upshift, I took every bit of that financial gain that we were making and dropped it right back into the company. So that's kind of how we've been able to build the business. And we sell in 40 countries now outside the US, and we have phenomenal international distribution and those type of things. And you just have to kind of go with the flow and understand what your vision and your goal is. So
one of the things that I really like about your company is the artwork. And, when we talk about cigar boxes and the ornate nature, and when we draw contrast, obviously in the government relations world, we're fighting against mass market cigarettes, vaping products. And we talk about that history component, the camaraderie component, but also the ornate, time-intensive process of cigar making. It really shows with the boxes, and you have several lines, the Gatekeeper being one of them, that it's artwork. It is not only just a packaging, it is artwork. But, in terms of your overall business and that, some folks out there may be a little bit shy about starting a business because of all that has transpired. What are some lessons that you have learned along the way that you would give advice to people that are thinking about starting a small business?
Well, just based on my experience and the people I know and people, business owners that I know, almost every business that an entrepreneur starts is underfunded. So that should not be a deterrent to starting a business. It probably doesn't make your chances of survival as great as if you had all the money in the world to get started. But as an entrepreneur, that's not something that should get in your way. You need enough to get started and hustle. But I can tell you, I think the key to our success over the last 25 years in this industry is relationships. go out, create the relationships, always ask, what can I do for you? And then figure out how to make that work. And that's always been our mantra, is what can we do to help? And so I think one is, know what your goal is, know what you want to achieve, stay focused on it. And there will be a point, at least it's happened to me. There's a point that you have to be able to make a financial mistake. And what I mean by that is that you may have to pick a number based on the scale or the size of your company. But let's just say you have to say, I need to be okay making a $10,000 mistake. Because what happens is you're going to try something you wouldn't normally try. And if it fails, you can't stop trying. So what happens, the next $10,000 that you invest in an idea or a project may make you $1 million. So I think it's important to say, I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to continue to take some risks, and you have to mitigate your opportunity for loss, but you have to be able to make a mistake and know that it's okay to make that mistake and keep pushing forward. Because again, the next time you have an idea, you can't say, well, I just lost 10,000. I'm not doing it again. And ultimately you need to have more successes than you have losses, but you need to be able to take that moment and say, I believe in this again. I'm going to invest X amount more money and I'm going to make it work. And again, that could be your bump up to success. So, I would say be focused, create relationships, and work like it's your life.
Absolutely. When, in addition to all the work that you do for your individual company, you're actively involved in our government affairs effort with PCA and CRA. I think that it's admirable that you and our past guest from last Thursday, Rocky Patel, among others, are volunteers in this and routinely come to Washington, routinely provide your insights and input to policymakers. And it's been incredibly helpful from my perspective and our other lobbying team to be able to leverage those insights. From your perspective, how do you think things stand with our advocacy work, and how can anyone viewing this today help support the work that we are all doing?
Well, I think both from the PCA side and the CRA side, we've hired professionals, to carry our message. But it comes at a cost. Without question, it comes at a cost. You have to utilize lobbyists and connections to be able to get into certain government office, to be able to tell your story. You have to be able to make sure that, you're supporting that, and there's a cost involved. There's a litigation. We have, probably between the two organizations, we probably have $6 million into lawsuits against the FDA. And the burden has to be spread out. It has to encompass more people who love this industry and love this business. And so I think if people were going to get involved, there's a couple of ways to get involved. One, reach out to CRA or reach out to PCA, explain that you just want to be involved somehow. How can you be of assistance? I mean, we're all fighting for the same right? We're all fighting for the same exact cause, and that is that we want to be able to smoke cigars and enjoy cigars without government interference. Okay. And so it affects all of us, from the consumers to the tobacconists to the manufacturers, to the brand owners, whatever it may be. We're all in it, but very few people are willing to carry the water right now. And it's difficult, I have to tell you, because we're one of the companies, and I'm not taking credit for what we do, but there are only a certain amount of companies that are really getting involved and contributing. And yet every brand owner, every brand in the marketplace should be putting up some money into a fund that only is used for legislative purposes or litigation purposes, not to pay salaries, not to do travel, to do none of that, but just to support the efforts for us all have the ability and the right to smoke cigars. And I think that's important, but I also think that when you look at PCA, the Premium Cigar Association is a retailer-based organization. And you have the CRA, and even though it's a consumer rights group, it's also a voice for manufacturers. And to me, even though we do a lot of the things together, we are very connected at the hip. I think that we would be stronger actually as a singular organization because ultimately manufacturers don't sell consumers. Manufacturers market to consumers, and manufacturers sell tobacconists. So there's a downline, and we're all involved in the same exact problems, trying to solve the same exact problems. And even though, again, we're together on 90+% of the issues, I think we could even be stronger if we are pooling resources, if we have a singular pot to divvy out the money on where we need to go to get some, to make sure we get relief from the government. And I think that a lot of people can be involved in that, and everyone should be involved in that. So when you see a lot of brand owners that are on social media, I think it'd be great to ask them, hey, what are you doing? How are you contributing to this fight for all of us? Because we all are in it together, and we should bear that burden together, in my opinion.
Yeah. And it's, we're seeing some considerable headway made with the Food and Drug Administration and some of the administration outreach that we've been doing for months and years between the two organizations. But the fight is only going to get tougher. You look at these $1 trillion packages that the federal government's spending, you have tax revenue that's decreased at the local and state level. Somebody's going to have to pay for this at a certain point. And we know that in the next few months and years to come, we're going to be fighting tobacco taxes across the board. So I think it really speaks to the fact that involvement at any level, consumer, retailer, manufacturer, is going to be absolutely necessary, so that you don't have to pay $150 a cigar. You can enjoy it in public places. You can enjoy it in your cigar lounge, and really hone that message of, we're selling a legal product to legal adults. I want to shift away a little bit from the government relations side of things and get your insights on a few things. I, as you know, really enjoy cigars, but also really enjoy a few of your cigars. Two of my personal favorites are the Gatekeeper, which Scott was smoking, and Blind Faith. I like these cigars not only for the taste, but also, again, that box presentation and marketing. Can you tell us a little bit more about those two projects in particular?
Yeah, sure. It happens to be that the two cigars you mentioned are actually the two cigars produced by Alec and Bradley. So even though Alec Bradley Cigars distributes the product, Alec and Bradley invested their own money and went and spent, a tremendous amount of time down in the fields and at the factories and the blending to come up with the two lines that you just mentioned, right? Which was Blind Faith, which was their first line, of which they picked to blend their packaging style, even how they were going to bring it to market, because we could only give them a certain amount of rollers without hurting our own production. So they had to limit their quantities, because we could only give them certain productions. And they did that. And the story behind Blind Faith is really cool, because many years ago, I told both Alec and Bradley, I said, listen, being my sons and coming into a business that was established, you have to decide, are you going to be Alan's boys, or are you going to be Alec and Bradley? Are you going to make your own names? And so I said, the only way to do that is to invest your own money, and we'll support it and come up with your own lines. And so Blind Faith was the fact that if people were going to buy the product, they had to have blind faith that both Alec and Bradley knew what they were doing. And so that was the impetus behind that. And then Gatekeeper was their second line. And Gatekeeper was a collaborative effort between Ernesto Perez Carrillo and Alec and Bradley. And what I find to be really unique about that collaboration is that you're talking about, an icon in the industry with Ernesto, who's got decades in this business, of Cuban descent, right? And he's collaborating with two young guys in their 20s who are American. There's not really a lot of connection culturally, let's say, but the one connection that they had together was the passion of the cigar. And with that, even though Alec and Bradley both know that I have a long relationship with Ernesto, they came to me and said, we'd like to work with him. I'm like, hey, call him. And then they actually predicted that he was going to get the #1 cigar of the year. And so when I called him, when he got #1, I called him And he said, well, Alan, you had number one. Can you give me any advice? And I said, yeah, focus down on your brand. You have 1 year before they announce another number one. Focus down on your brand. Don't say no to projects. Just say they have to wait. And his answer to me was, I hear you, but I want to work with your boys. It was like, so he couldn't care less what my advice was. And they did a collaborative effort with Gatekeeper. It's doing phenomenal. The Gatekeeper was an homage to Ernesto. Like Ernesto collaborating with them was allowing them to kind of be into the business on a different level, not just through their father. I'm very proud of that cigar and what the boys have done. So it's great that the two cigars that you enjoy, you know, are products from the passion and the hearts of Alec and Bradley. So
those two in particular, I don't want to discount the rest of your cigars because Black Market, Prensado, like those are in my humidor as well. I mean, I have
thank you.
Of Alec Bradley ones, and
otherwise I was going to have to resign my position on the PCA advisory board.
Well, I
will say that, and we'll have to get them on for a future segment to talk about some of their work.
Well, I just wanted to ask, and coming into this to jump in, you know, Al, one of the things that struck me so much when we were talking about this, and as your boys started to come into this, you were telling the story a little bit about how you said, look, I don't want to pressure my sons to come into this. I wanted them to want to be involved in this. But just in that sense, though, kind of knowing, again, the cigar business as a family, but the pride in which, you know, your son's taking ownership of their own, you know, and it's coming from the place of the sons from the father and kind of the handing down, but making it their own. And that pride that I think just sort of exudes from your boys and what they've been able to do, that it's not Alan's boys. It very much is they're making their own way and producing things. And I think that that just has to make you so proud, because really going back to what Josh said, leadership by example. But I mean, look, they're learning right at you know, from their father and kind of taking that and running with it. And I just think that that's got to just fill you with a lot of pride and fulfillment, that seeing your boys kind of carrying that legacy on. Yeah,
I mean, I can tell you, my wife and I talk about it on a regular basis, you know, as you know, being the mom of these kind of two young entrepreneurs on their own, and the amount of work and effort that she sees them putting into this, it gives her a sense of pride. So when we sit down and have dinner and we're sitting down or talking and she wants to know what's going on, a lot of times she's asking not only, you know, honey, what's going on with you, but it's like, what are the boys doing? Are they traveling as much as they need to or want to, or what are they involved in? And so I think what's great is that we get to see both our sons in their careers daily. And I mean, that's a blessing in itself, that I get to see my kids move forward in their careers, and I get to experience it and be a part of it. We get to be a part of it all together. And I think that's a really cool perspective for me. And on the other side of that, when I was in my other business with my father, and when we sold that business and I started this business, my dad came to work with me every day. So my father and I worked together, you know, alongside one another for 35 years. There was a time that my father was here and my kids were here. So 3 generations were in this office daily. And that was, I mean, honestly, nobody had it better than me. I mean, that's as good as you could get for me. So
that's fantastic. And you know, we've talked about it. Your company is very unique. You have 2 other initiatives that really struck me. You know, the Filthy Hooligan cigar, you know, recently St. Patrick's Day, that's been going on for a while. Every St. Patrick's Day since you've released that, I've had one. And then the other is the burners and your new unique style of lighter, which I also have both of those. And I wanted to ask you about those 2 projects and how they came together.
Yeah. So if we talk about the burner first, ultimately, you know, my desk is, I think, probably like most entrepreneurs, where there's 400 things on the desk, and you may know where everything is, but the one thing I was tired of doing is, like, you know, looking for a lighter, you know, every 10 minutes of, you know, in the middle of stuff. And I just said, like, this is ridiculous. I need to have something that holds a lot of butane that I can find daily, and or when I need. And so the original one I came up with was our original burner. And what I loved about it is it wasn't a torch; it's a mushroom, flame, and it lights a cigar very quickly and evenly, and it's done very well for us over the years. And then I said, why don't we do something kind of cool with that? And we came up with the Mega Burner. So this is the standard Alec Bradley Mega Burner that we do, and then we also have a limited edition series which is coming out, which are all themed. And so what we did here was we actually contracted with artists, creatives that we've known along the years, to come up with themes that meant something to them that we thought were pretty cool. So that's our new product that's coming out. It was supposed to hit, in the next couple of months. I'm not exactly sure where everything stands right now, in the middle of the situation we're in. And so again, it was really out of need that I decided that I wanted bigger lighters that held more fluid that I could find. And then the Filthy Hooligan came out of the fact that we were down, we're down at the factories. We try and be down there, every month, so we can not only keep blending, but then we start to, we look over productions. And we were in the fields and we saw that they were working, they were working on some Candela. And I said, can I get some, can I get some Candela? We don't do a project with Candela. And I've always loved it, but we just never really worked with that before. And so we were able to procure a certain amount of Candela. And if you know anything about the leaves and what happens with Candela, it doesn't go through the fermentation process. Once it's pulled, it gets a very quick heat to lock the chlorophyll in, and it's a pretty robust leaf. And it's very workable, and it's got great sweetness and flavor. It's kind of a tough leaf, which is where the kind of hooligan toughness idea came from. And what happens is you don't want to hold on to Candela wrapper too long because it's sensitive to light. And so you make it, we bought it, we made it, we launched it right around St. Patrick's Day, kind of like the green really connection is what that was. And it sold out. And so the next year we got some Candela, we did it again, and it sold out. And then I think from the third year on, basically we get Candela, we changed it up. We did a barber pole on the Filthy Hooligan, and then we came out and we had some extra Candela, and we used that and came up with a triple wrap cigar, 3 wrappers, called the Shamrock. And it was all about doing something cool and unique, and people were looking forward to it. We only launch it once a year, and everything is done on pre-orders. So we start taking orders some months in advance, and whatever we sell is how much Candela we buy, and we bring it to market. So, and that's it. And it sells out, normally sells out in a couple of days. It gets sold after the first few months, and then it comes in, and within 2 days, it's out of our warehouse.
It's a staple for St. Patrick's Day. That and the green beer, you got to have one of those cigars. But I will say with the burners, I keep them in the office, and we have, congressional staffers, people coming through, and they're like, what the heck is this? Is this a flamethrower? And I always joke with people, certain lighters there's that gray area. Can I bring this on an airplane or not? There's no question you cannot bring those on an airplane.
What's funny about that, Josh, is that based on the flame itself, because it's not a torch, you should be able to, because it's a standard flame, but I just wouldn't try it. Yeah. I just don't think it's a good idea.
No, they'll probably give you some trouble. Final question, and just a fun one. We'll bring watch your eyebrows when you light that up. But final question, and kind of a fun one, and then we'll bring back Scott, see if we have any audience questions or if he has any final ones. What's your go-to cigar and beverage pairing?
Yeah, so we're very fortunate because we have a phenomenal working relationship and personal relationships with the people from William Grant & Sons, which is Glenn Fiddick and Belvini, and they do Hendrick's Gin. They have a phenomenal portfolio. Hudson Bourbon, which is made out of New York, out of Tuttletown Distillery. So we have a lot of great whiskey available to us. But my pairing of choice would be our Prensado and Glenfiddich 15. It's a phenomenal ride. It's a great hour and a half of just, it's a pleasure ride. It just is. They balance well together. The viscosities between the smoke and the liquid, the sweetness balance, the complexities and how they finish. It's just a great pairing. So that's my, that's my go-to pairing.
Well, next time when you come to DC, you bring the whiskey and cigars. I'll bring some tequila, and then we'll have a good time.
You bring the tacos and tequila?
I'll bring the tacos and tequila. Exactly.
Deal.
Good stuff. I just had a couple of quick questions here, a little bit with the last few minutes. What do you and Alec and Bradley like to do to unwind, apart from cigars and spirits and stuff? Do you guys fish? Do you guys golf? What is a typical kind of sort of father or son in the Rubin household? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so that's first of all, it's a great question. It's a funny question. First, let me start by saying that Alec is just bought a house and he's engaged, and so he spends a lot of time at home, and they have a new puppy, and so that takes up a lot of his time. And Bradley lives on the east side of Fort Lauderdale, and his girlfriend is very much into whiskey and cigars. And so when we're all together, there's no doubt that whiskey and cigars are part of our either meal or conversation or whatever it may be. Both Alec and Bradley are really into now finding new whiskeys to enjoy. And so we always are on this hunt. For me personally, I enjoy golf. So, during this time when the golf courses in South Florida are closed, it's tough. The balance of life is a little bit tough right now, because I would go out after work, when it's light out, and still go hit balls on the range or something, just to kind of get my mind clear. And that's not available right now. So, I enjoy spending time with my wife, and I enjoy spending time with my friends and golfing together. And my friends and I golf together. We're talking about, these are my friends back from high school, college, my roommates in college. We all spend time together. So there's like a dozen of us that are always together having dinner, and so it's a chance to be social. I remember, I can tell you this, when I first started, I made really bad cigars, and and all my friends who are into cigars used to smoke them a little begrudgingly. This is 25 years ago when I started. Now they're all into cigars, and we've picked our game up, and so we all sit down. When sports are on TV, we're all together watching sports, smoking cigars, and if not, we're on the golf course and smoking cigars. So, yeah, work keeps me busy, but if not, to spend time with my family and my friends is really what it's about for me.
So then I have a follow-up to this. When you were just talking about your son getting engaged, and not that I'm putting any sort of undue pressures on them, but I do want to ask then, do you already have your grandpa nickname picked out?
Well, I'm guessing it's going to be something like Puff Daddy, or
I think that one might already be taken.
Potentially, yeah. Or Papa Puff, or I don't know. No,
there you go.
Let's not put that agenda yet. He's gonna kill me when I told everyone he's engaged. That's
breaking news. That's what we're all about here. We're breaking news.
Pretty private in that respect, but we're very happy for them. And so
we gotta add the CNN breaking news banner.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I actually do have the capability, but I won't be that kitschy right now to do that. That's funny. And so it's funny because you actually answered a question that Craig Cass posted. He said, "Does a workaholic entrepreneur like Alan have such a great golf game?" And I think you just answered it right there. Priorities, right?
So I have to tell you, and I wasn't going to tell this to Craig, but Craig and I played up at his home course, and it was like one of the best rounds I had. And he said, "Like, you're such a good golfer," and I'm not. But that round I played exceptionally well. And so in Craig's mind, if I'm a good golfer, so be it. But it happens to be. It's very funny about saying that. Craig is again, Craig as a tobacconist is phenomenal. He's very professional, and he has a great environment that he creates within his stores and lounges. And he also has a really good golf game. So he shouldn't be asking the question that he can answer himself.
So I think what Craig Cash just heard is that whenever you go play golf, he needs to come and play with you so that you keep playing your best rounds, right?
He is invited every time. As a matter of fact, if he decides to drive down, well, the courses by him are open right now, so I may have to drive up and spend some time with him.
Okay, so Mitch does ask this question. I want to put this up here. Is the Smart Mouth collab a real thing or just a one-off?
No, so it happens to be that being in the cigar business and smoking the cigars as much as we all do, you still have to worry about your breath, right? Because you're going to be around people that are not cigar smokers or go home to your spouse or whatever it may be. And so I've tried everything, and the only thing that works and works phenomenally well is Smart Mouth. Let me just see. Give me 1 second. Let me see. Yeah. So that's Smart Mouth. Okay. And it's what happens is there's a 2-part process. And what happens is that comes through the spout, and when it mixes, it activates. And what this does, what Smart Mouth does compared to all the other products in the market, is that it actually keeps the molecules that cause bad breath from bonding to your tongue. So once you clean, whether you're drinking coffee or wine that could give you bad breath or smoking cigars, this stuff is spectacular because it cleans your mouth, but then it doesn't allow the sulfur that causes bad breath to actually bond to your tongue. So I was so impressed with this company when I found this product that I actually flew out to meet the CEO and spend time with him. And by the way, he's a cigar smoker. So it happens to be that the product, I endorse it. Everyone here uses it. My wife is thrilled that I use it. And it's just, when you find something that works and it's a family-owned company and they care as much about their product as we care about ours, it's hard not to fall in love with that combination. And you can find it everywhere. And for me, it's the only stuff that's worked, and it's great. So
yeah, that was gonna be my follow-up is where could one find it? Because my wife will definitely be happy if I get myself a few gallons of that thing.
Yeah, I think it's in all the Walgreens and all the big box stores. A lot of the grocery stores carry it, and it's not the least expensive product, but it works. I mean, it's worth. And actually, they make a claim that if you use it twice a day, morning and night, like you won't even wake up with morning breath. I mean, the stuff is spectacular. It was. Yeah, no, it was. I mean, it was developed and it was created, and they've continually built the product up. They actually have these small packs that you can put in your pocket or carry with you. These little travel packs that you rip it, and it's got 2 pieces, and 30 seconds of gargling, and your breath is clean. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of the product.
That will be good to bring on to Capitol Hill when I'm going meeting to meeting after cigars. But Scott, we should definitely call them up, have them sponsor this.
Yeah,
video.
seriously.
Get some good advertising.
Hey Josh, if you reach out to me when this is over, I'll give you their director of marketing. I'll give you his contact. I think they'd love to do it.
Oh, that's fantastic. I always do 2 things, and we have in the office root beer candies. Those are that will get the taste out of your mouth. Like you will not, I can't speak to the other stuff, but we do carry root beer candies at the office, and then Henry Clay mints. I don't know if you've ever had those.
I know what they are.
Those, they're kind of old school candy, but those were, I remember, when I first started having cigars, probably a decade, 12 years ago, in the stores, every tobacconist would have Henry Clay mints, and it was the 1-2
on the counter.
Exactly.
On the counter, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I can tell you again, so impressed with what this product does, what Smart Mouth does, that again, I flew out to meet with them to say, can we do something together? My industry needs this. Yeah. And when they explained the process of these 2 components that activate when you pour them into a cup together, and actually the way this works is you just use this as the pour piece, what it pours into, and they explain how it works and what it does. So it makes sense that you use another product that's alcohol based and it does clean your mouth, but then your mouth is a breeding ground for the process to start right again, where this keeps it from bonding to your tongue. It's just different mentality of how it works, and it's great. So
well, if your wife endorses it, then I'm all in.
For sure.
Yeah, one last question here, and then we can let you go. But Andrew asked this question: when can we expect the Alec Bradley Vice Press back into production?
He's one of the 12 people that bought that line when it was around.
Andrew, if you buy 10 boxes, they'll keep producing them.
Yeah, I have a place in my heart for Vice Press because it was for sure our most unique and interesting packaging that we've ever done. We had a big box and it had trays and it was a mess. But the cigar is good. But the truth is, if he likes the blend, it's a very, very close blend to our Max line, which is currently in the market. So.
Very cool. Well, on behalf of my wife's stepfather, he is a huge fan. He smokes pretty much exclusively Alec Bradley that he gets at the at Total Wine, which is where he usually goes. That's the closest one to him. So he's a very, very big fan of all your products, but he almost exclusively. In fact, for years, my Christmas present from him was usually one or two of your cigars that he'd always give me. So as I said, thank you for that. That's always been sort of my connection with him was, exchanging of cigars as gifts. So
that's great. Thank you.
So Josh, anything else before we let
Alan just go? Want to thank Alan. I hopefully next time we meet, it'll be in DC over some of the good whiskey and tequila or in Miami. Scott, I'm happy to go out and do a tour in Miami. We'll go on a boat or something.
You let me know when you're ready to come down.
Golf courses are open here, so you're more than welcome to come up now if you want.
Yeah, Josh is wearing a sweater and you're wearing a jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah, cold. Exactly. Yeah. Not a strong selling point right now.
Yeah, not right now.
Hey, Alan, really thank you very much for your time. And more than anything, thank you so much. It's been, you and Christian were the two guys that I met first on that bus going into TAA, very first that I met coming into this. And so thank you so much. You've always been such a huge supporter. One of the things I do really appreciate most about you is that no matter what, you're such a straight shooter that I never have to question anything in terms of where I stand with you or what's on your mind. And I totally appreciate that. And it's been so beneficial. You've been so helpful as I've come into this position. And just the cigar industry as a whole really does owe you a big thank you for how much time and energy you actually put in to kicking the tires at the FDA and going out there in Capitol Hill and supporting all of our initiatives that we're doing. So I just want to say thank you and let everybody else out there publicly know how much work you put in on behalf of the industry.
I can tell you I'm very proud and honored to be a part of it. It's an amazing industry that we're in. We provide so much enjoyment and so much pleasure around the world. And we have a fight ahead of us, but I wouldn't pick another group to fight alongside, with me, or that I would fight alongside with them other than the group that we have. I mean, it's humbling to know that there's a lot of people that have your back, and we just got to keep the fight going. That's all. We got to keep pushing. And you guys are spectacular at what you do and moving this industry forward. Decisions nowadays aren't so easy, as to what comes next. But we're all in it together. We're always a phone call away from one another. And I'm just happy to be a part of it. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Alan, for your time. Stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
I hope so. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Take care, Papa Puff.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow for Cigars 101, and then we'll also put up our schedule for next week as we continue to do more of these. Thanks again.
Thank you.